growing up in a town with 1,000 people doesn't offer a whole lot of opportunities for bands to play. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I moved over here to start going to school, and I happened to overhear Frank on the other side of the room saying he was looking for a bassist, and I just jumped on it because I happened to be at that little desperation point. I was like, oh, I play bass. I actually scared the living crap out of him. He was like, who the hell is this guy? What are you? You know, so.
I was been like messing around with music. I've always been into music. Loved playing it. I played lots of instruments, but never got serious until I finally got fed up. I was like, you know what? I need to find some actual people who aren't flakes to play some music with. And I found these guys.
I always really wanted to be in a band, like really bad, but being in like a small town, there weren't very many musicians to pull from and stuff like that. So I didn't actually get a functioning band until I was in like my sophomore year of high school. And I had a punk rock band that I played bass and sang in. And then I moved out to Seattle to go to college. And the first school that I was at, I answered ads in The Stranger and ended up being in this like all-girl death metal band.
So we were looking for a singer, and Frank and I had this conversation shortly after when he came up and was like, oh, I'm a singer, and you know, we should play or whatever. So we had this whole chat about like, oh man, I don't know if I want to check in the band. That's a whole another can of worms. Like what? Okay, so we'll humor her, whatever, and we start playing, and she starts singing. Everything's fine. Everything. We were playing what became "Turn Away," and she gets to that first Y, and we both just flub it down the toilet. Like took us totally by surprise, broke our concentration. We were like, oh man, did you hear that airplane go by? We totally tried to play it off as something else.
Like, I was thinking about something else, like trying to act like I didn't scare them.
We're all nonchalant about it.
And I didn't know. They told me later that the reason that they messed up was because my first scream actually like startled them. But you know, I'd been kept asking, "Am I in the band? Am I in the band? Am I in the band?" Finally, I think on Halloween they finally were like, "Yes, you're in the band."
It wasn't even so much like just you.
I win.
It wasn't.
Oh, we all take turns. We like doing stuff that's obscure, but not too obscure that no one knows the cover.
We're just kind of getting the point, which is actually really expanding our cover base. Now, kind of what we're doing is finding songs that we can revamp and retool and try and put a new take on it, because what we found is that it's a totally different muscle to flex.
Yeah, the music is written, but you're still trying to put your mark on it.
And then there's covers like our Tool cover, where we know Tool fans are very, very fanatical, and they very much want it to be right.
Yes, how do you deal with that? I mean, there's things you gotta deal with, you know, like, when he's gotta change, we gotta get out of the band, you know? You know, it's not like you got 4 guys back there and you're, you know, hanging balls out watching the game or whatever. Wendy does her part of the heavy lifting, I don't want to say that or anything, but, you know, we're getting the calves and the heads, whatever, and Wendy's off putting our set list together and getting water and, you know.
If anything, she keeps us in check a little bit. When she goes out of town and we're unsupervised, it can get a lot out of control.
I think most of us grew up in kind of the classic rock stuff, and you know, everything from, of course, the Beatles and, you know, the Doors and those kind of guys. But
Jethro Tull, so we really pull from a ton of different places musically. We all actually have very, very diverse interests.
As far as influences, huge range of influences. If I could sing it, pretty much, you know, when I was younger, if I could sing it, I liked it.
The very first show we ever had, I think it was in Port Orchard.
Yeah.
Well, while we're there, Frank plugs his head in to start warming up or whatever, get the tubes going. And of course, like 2 songs in to the band before a set, they spill beer on top of it, and it goes down into the tubes, fries the head, like, just total nightmare. Driving back home up north, all of a sudden the van starts going all over the road, and Wendy looks in her side mirror, and the trailer's next to the van. And still
the van,
attached.
the Blazer.
Or next to the Blazer. Still attached, and it's just swinging on the chain. And it's sparking up everywhere, and we're like, oh my god, we're gonna die! Oh.
Everything was fine. Nothing, I mean...
Yeah, no major damage. Nothing.
Yeah.
Frank's head took a little work or whatever, but it was fine. But we were like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
that was our first
show ever.
Do something new, something worthwhile, not play the same stuff. Try to innovate some.
Yeah, we've never taken a direction of trying, to make a song sound a certain way. It's like our writing process is we just constantly experiment and play with different things and try different things. It's almost like a crazy little science experiment. And at some point you just decide that, oh yeah, that's the one.
Mine is Outcast Hero. That is my favorite song to play live. It's my favorite song on the album.
Outcast is definitely one of my favorites too. I really like the different tempo and time changes and the way it all just kind of flows together.
I think my favorite song to play live is Descent. There's just so much opportunity for more and more energy in that song in different places. I just find like the place I'm hitting the drums the very hardest is on Descent towards the end. There's just so many ways to have a lot of fun with it.
It's just another creative tool. It's just another outlet. So a lot of
Vocals
times
are all me, and there's no pedals, okay?
a lot of times people think that, like, we've even had people come up and be like, so are you like cueing that growl sound or like whatever? And we're like, what are you talking about, dude?
Hip hop.
I say progressive metal. People ask me, I say progressive metal.
I think it's going to continue to get more progressive. It's just kind of a reflection of our personalities. We all have a little bit of ADD, shiny object thing going on. So, we're constantly wanting to add more weird little time changes and, whatever. It becomes this delicate balance of trying to put as much little accents and interesting changes and weird things in without it, sounding like a freeform jazz piece and just going nuts. But, I mean, you end up with that, in case you're curious.
And that's part of the dynamic of the band, too, where, Frank is really into progressive and really doesn't want to, like play things for too long and really, and I like being able to dwell on things and elaborate with things, and repeating things is okay. Like, it doesn't always have to change, there doesn't always have to be some kind of weird thing to make it different. So there's this push-pull there, and we've gone to the edge of stuff like, I think it's too much, too many changes or whatever, and then we've also, pulled back where Frank thinks that there's not enough. And so I think there's always going to be, with
there's
all of us,
this
push-pull, so I don't think we can really say it's going to go one way, it's just going to kind of rattle all over the place.
The way it's been evolving has been getting better at merging those two, like how to be progressive, how to push the envelope, really make people stretch their ears without making it just weird for the sake of weird, right? Like, how can we actually take this and wield it for a musical purpose?
Be able to groove on it still.
So we're definitely serious. We're in it for the long haul. We don't want to just stay in one place. We're absolutely looking to advance and progress.
I think more than anything, and I think it's just this obsession that we have, is that no matter what point we're at, it's forward. Always, always forward.
I love Jessica, Jack Off Jill. She was my main inspiration for learning to scream. And then Kitty was a big influence on me for growling. But on the local band note, Alabaster.
I was just thinking about them. I was just thinking about them.
Mm-hmm. My parents love it. My parents are awesome.
I I think my folks are a little overwhelmed by the whole thing.
My dad has always loved music. He's been a performer himself, more singer-songwritery kind of stuff. So every show he comes to, he says, now, you know it's not really my kind of music, because like metal is a couple notches past
I get that too.
what he's used to.
Well, I'm wearing a C2 shirt. They're good guys. Electromagnetic spectrum in the ultraviolet.
Lucid Spiral. LUCIDSPIRAL. I think.
Plug.
Well, the first one we got as a suggestion from the engineer who worked on our EP.
Once he had a pretty cohesive thing, Frank and I went over and said, like, no, this is too long, no, this shot's not, you know, whatever, and got to be involved in his editing process and stuff. And actually ended up being really cool for how cheap it was. And
Well, I wasn't actually part of the making of the first video, so Descent was my first experience actually making a video.
We shot it at this abandoned warehouse, and when we first walked in, you know, we're like, man, don't touch anything.
It's
Don't.
sharp,
There's
it's
like
dirty.
tetanus everywhere in here. By the end of the second day of filming, I guess it was the first night of filming, wasn't it? We were
Yeah.
upstairs on the top floor doing this stuff with candles, and like we finished the last take, and Frank just falls down on the floor,
yeah,
and like
we're just rolling around on the floor.
we didn't
Around
really
the
care
desk.
anymore. We're just hanging out. At one point, the director went to go get lunch or something, and like Frank and Wendy and I are just sitting in some folding chairs in the dark, and there was no power or anything, so we just went and turned off the generator and sat in the dark. We had this thought of like, man, we wouldn't even walk in here yesterday, and now we're just hanging out,
Lying on the floor.
It quickly became home.
Yeah. Got talked out.
Find us on Facebook. Find us on MySpace.
Find us at universalmeasure.com.
Universalmeasure.com.
And check out our videos.
Check out our videos. YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. We're on YouTube.
Anything
Thank
else
you.
for
We love
guys?
you. Mwah.
That's the best thing you've said all night.